Under the glittering lights of America's Got Talent, the stage was alive with energy. Cameras panned across the audience, judges whispered among themselves, and backstage, a young Filipino man stood frozen in place, clutching the microphone in his shaking hands. His name was Miguel Cruz, but tonight, everyone would soon know him as the Filipino Elvis. He wore a shimmering gold jacket, his hair slicked back like the king himself, and on his chest gleamed a small Philippine flag pin. He whispered to himself, "Breathe, Miguel. This is it." A producer gave him a thumbs up. The doors opened, and suddenly, the blinding light of the AGT stage hit his face. As he stepped onto the stage, the massive crowd cheered politely. The judges, Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel, looked up curiously. Simon leaned back in his chair, arms folded, studying the young man. "Hello," he said in that familiar British tone. "Who are you?" Miguel smiled nervously, his accent clear and soft. "Good evening, sir. My name is Miguel Cruz, and I came all the way from the Philippines to sing for you tonight." Sofia smiled warmly. "Oh, that's wonderful. Welcome to AGT. Simon raised an eyebrow. "So you're dressed like Elvis Presley. Are you an impersonator?" Miguel hesitated, then shook his head. "No, sir. I just grew up listening to him. He was my inspiration, my way of feeling close to my father. I want to honor his legacy in my own way." The audience awed. Simon smirked slightly. "All right then, let's see what you've got." Miguel took a deep breath, nodded once, and signaled the sound crew. The lights dimmed to a soft blue, and the opening chords of "Can't Help Falling in Love" echoed through the hall. For a second the entire room was still. Then Miguel sang, "Wise Men Say." The first note hung in the air like magic. His voice was deep, warm, and heartbreakingly smooth. The tone, the emotion, it wasn't mimicry, it was real. The crowd gasped, Heidi's jaw dropped, Howie leaned forward, Sofia pressed her hands to her chest. Simon's eyebrows rose slightly, the smallest flicker of surprise breaking through his poker face. Miguel continued, his eyes closed, singing with everything inside him. "Only fools rush in." His voice quivered with emotion. Somewhere in the audience, someone whispered, "Oh my God, he sounds just like Elvis." The room filled with the golden glow of stage lights, as he sang the next line. "But I can't help falling in love with you." A few people in the front row began to cry. His tone carried years of passion, pain, and pride. You could almost feel the weight of his journey. From small-town karaoke nights in the Philippines to the biggest stage in the world. The camera zoomed in on Simon's face, no smirk now, just awe. He turned slightly to Howie and muttered, "This guy is unreal." By the second verse, the audience was swaying. Some held up phones capturing the moment, others simply stared in disbelief. The Filipino Elvis opened his eyes and smiled, soaking in the magic. Then he dropped to one knee, lifted the mic, and hit the final note, powerful, resonant, pure. The music faded, silence followed, then chaos. The entire crowd erupted into cheers. People stood up, clapping, shouting. Heidi and Sofia were on their feet cheering. Howie banged the table, laughing in disbelief. And Simon, the hardest man to impress, slowly stood up and started clapping. Miguel bowed, breathless, tears shining in his eyes. He looked out at the sea of faces and whispered, thank you very much." Simon grabbed the mic. "You know, I've seen a lot of Elvis acts over the years," he said. "Some of them good, most of them, not so good." The crowd chuckled. Simon smiled slightly. "But what you just did, that wasn't imitation. That was pure heart. You didn't just sound like Elvis, you reminded us why we loved him." Miguel's lips trembled. "Thank you, sir. That means everything." Sofia jumped in. "You made me cry, you really did. That voice, it was like wow." Heidi nodded eagerly. "You have the tone, the charm, everything. It's like he's alive again through you." Howie grinned. "I felt like I was watching something historic." The crowd began to chant again. "Elvis! Elvis! Elvis!" Miguel covered his face, overwhelmed. Tears rolled down his cheeks. Simon looked at the other judges, then back at Miguel. The music started softly again in the background. "You know what?" Simon said, his voice low but firm. "I think this is your moment." He reached forward and slammed the golden buzzer. The sound thundered through the hall. A burst of light, a storm of gold confetti raining from the ceiling. The crowd screamed, jumping, crying, cheering. Miguel gasped, falling to his knees as golden paper showered him. He covered his mouth, unable to speak. His body shook with emotion. Simon stood, clapping with rare sincerity. "You deserve this," he said. "You absolutely deserve this." The host, Terry Crews, ran on stage, wrapping Miguel in a big hug.
"You did it, brother! You got the golden buzzer!"
Miguel laughed through tears, shaking his head. "I can't believe this, I can't." Confetti stuck to his jacket and hair. He pointed to his chest, where the small flag pin glittered. "This is for the Philippines," he said through sobs. The audience roared. People waved flags in the crowd. The camera zoomed in on Simon's proud smile as he said softly to Heidi, "He's special." When the confetti finally settled, Miguel stood in the golden glow breathing hard. The lights dimmed slowly as the music faded. The stage was silent again except for the echo of cheers. Backstage moments later Miguel was still trembling, holding the golden buzzer confetti in his hands. A producer handed him a phone. "Someone wants to see you." He looked at the screen. It was his mother, calling from their small home back in the Philippines. The connection was a little blurry, but her tears were crystal clear. "Anak," she cried.
I saw you.
"Oh my God, you did it?" Miguel's voice cracked. "Mama, they pressed it. The golden buzzer." His mother covered her mouth sobbing. "You made us so proud. The whole barangay is watching," he laughed, wiping his eyes. "I just wanted you to hear me sing, Mama. I wanted the world to know where I came from." The camera followed as he sat down, holding the phone to his ear. "I kept thinking about that day when you played Elvis on the radio," he said softly. "You told me, if you ever sing like that, you'll touch hearts." "I think maybe I did." His mother smiled. "You did, Anak. You touched the world." The scene cut back to the judge's table. Simon was still sitting there watching replays on his monitor, shaking his head. "He's gonna be huge," he murmured. Heidi nodded. "He's not just a performer. He's a moment." Sophia smiled. "Filipinos, they always bring heart. He brought Elvis back with love." Backstage again. The host approached Miguel. "You just made history," Terry said, slapping his shoulder. "First Filipino Elvis to get a golden buzzer. How does it feel?" Miguel laughed, still dazed. "It feels like I'm dreaming." Terry smiled. "You're not dreaming, brother. The king just got reborn, Filipino style." The crowd outside was still chanting,
Elvis, Elvis, Elvis.
The sound filled the hallway as Miguel slowly walked toward the stage exit. He paused, turning back one last time to look at the glowing stage, now empty, covered in golden glitter. He whispered, thank you very much." The camera followed him as he walked out under the bright sign that read America's Gold. The confetti still clung to his shoulders like tiny stars. Outside, the cool night air hit his face. He looked up at the sky, still catching his breath. Somewhere out there, maybe Elvis himself was smiling down. He took out his phone and opened social media. Notifications were exploding, millions of views already, thousands of comments flooding in. "Filipino Elvis stuns the world. I'm crying. He's incredible. Elvis would be proud." Miguel smiled softly. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. Hours later, back in his hotel room, he replayed the moment again. The sound of the crowd, the flash of gold, the look on Simon's face. He sat by the window staring out at the city lights, holding the little flag pin in his hand. In the background, the TV was replaying his audition. The commentators were calling it one of the most emotional performances in AGT history. Reporters were already dubbing him, the Filipino Elvis who made Simon cry. Miguel chuckled quietly. "I didn't think I'd ever see that." He leaned back, eyes closing for a moment, letting everything sink in. "Mama," he whispered softly to himself, "we did it." And somewhere far away, in a small house in the Philippines, his mother looked at the same golden confetti piece she had kept. The one he mailed to her weeks later, and smiled proudly. From that day forward, the world would remember not just the king of rock and roll, but the night his spirit rose again through the voice of a young man from the islands. Who Filipino Elvis, who turned a dream into gold. The video of his audition broke records overnight. Newspapers across the world printed his story. Fans called him Elvis of the East. But to Miguel, it was never about fame. It was about heart. About carrying his people's pride on the biggest stage on earth and proving that even from the humblest beginnings, you can shine like gold. And in the echo of his final words that night, thank you very much. The world heard not just an impression, but the rebirth of a legend.